Welcome to Bootstrapped Unicorns. I'm your host, Josh Pies, and this is the show where scrappy founders, rebellious visionaries, and business misfits pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build something extraordinary from absolutely nothing. No trust fund, no fairy god investor, just grit, duct tape, caffeine, yeah, and that dream. We're talking about the wild, unfiltered ride of turning chaos into cash flow and ideas into impact. So buckle up. This is no Disney movie, but there might be some magic. Let's face it, even Elon started in a garage. So without further ado, let's get to the next episode. Welcome to Bootstrapped Unicorns, presented by C47 Digital Studios. Bootstrapped Unicorns, we are back for another episode. I am excited because I have a new friend that I met on the wonders of this thing called the interwebs. We found each other on LinkedIn. And Dr. Julie Burke is here with us today because she is an expert in a world that I am fascinated with, but I know I am woefully inadequate in, which is the world of intellectual property. You might have an idea and you want to make sure the world thinks it's yours and only yours, and you can monetize it and you can do whatever you want with it. How do you do that? Well, you probably think you want a patent on it. Good luck, right? That is a world I don't understand. And Dr. Burke knows this world. She is an expert in it. And so she's going to tell us a little bit today, but this is a hot takes episode. So even though I'm going to ask some questions about her expertise, she is going to educate us on something. And I don't know what yet, but before we get there, I always remind you, this is a sponsored show. Who sponsors it? My own company. This is my show, C47 Digital Studios. Yep, that's us. And if you want to have a business podcast, if you want to go ahead and show your expertise to the world, build authority with an audience, and secret sauce, have incredible guests on your show that you get to learn from and spend time with and do life with, and therefore build a relationship with, which is where the immediate ROI is, because that is where all business is done, with great relationships. Then you need to learn this. You need to figure it out for yourself. And whether you hire us, choose to do it yourself, or you learn enough where you go, ooh, this is not something I'm going to do, all of those decisions are fine. How you're going to do that? You're going to go to makeitashow.com, makeitashow.com, download my free ebook. It's not that long. It's about 40 pages. You can figure out what it means to do professional business to business podcasting and see how it could positively affect your business. I stumbled over the word positively there, but that was positively affect your business. And I believe it can, but you really deserve to understand the process and see whether you want to even get into it. And yeah, you know what? I do sell that service, so I'd love to hear from you and maybe help you. But if you do it on your own, I do want an email so I can cheer you on. Now, without further ado, we've got Dr. Burke here. May I call you Julie?
You sure can, Joshua.
All right, Julie. Well, welcome. And I'm thrilled that you're here. I want to start right with the meat of this because we're coming in for a hot takes episode. Do you have a hot take on the patent industry right now?
Oh my gosh, this is the most exciting of times right now. I started in 95 in this business, and it's never been a more optimistic time for inventors and innovators right now.
Really?
We've got a new administration, absolutely, who's come in with some really wild things going on. But inside the small world of the USPTO, it's an agency of 14,000 people, minus quite a few after all the rifts and everything. This little engine that is driving Americans' economy. And right now we're seeing a pivot away from being the U.S. rejection office, which was bad news for small inventors and innovators. They're trying to turn it around to become the U.S. Patent Office again. And we've seen very promising signs coming on in. Love to tell you more about that.
Oh, okay. So love them or hate them, the current administration, I'm going to stay out of the politics side of things. The current administration has it sounds like they've set a tone currently where we're getting more yeses than nos, maybe a little less red tape.
Yes, but it's a complicated system. The first thing that may shock your viewers is the idea that in 2010, the Patent Office set up its own tribunal called the PTAB Death Squad. Once you finally worked your way through the system and got your patent application, more often than not, it affected the small inventors, the startups, the little guys.
Yeah.
Your application could be taken to this tribunal and removed, invalidated. And from 2010 till just this last year, it had a track record of invalidating 84% of the patents placed in front of it. This is devastating for the inventive community.
Well, yeah. So I let's say I came up with a grand idea and I
Yep.
really believe in it. And it is
Yep.
pretty darn unique. So I got through what, it sounds like it's quite a process. It's a deep process to get that even applied for, isn't it?
Yes, it is. They do let people apply without patent attorneys or patent agents. I'm a registered patent agent, but I
Okay.
really would recommend not doing this process on your own. The mistakes that can be made can be devastating. And it is not cheap to hire a patent attorney or a patent agent to walk through the process. Maybe take some 2 years and 3 years,
Okay.
something like that, if you go through an expedited process, which costs more money. And at the end, you can get a patent which is just fantastic. And with that, you can start licensing, start a business, protect your invention. You can move
Yeah.
forward. You can do some things with that patent.
Okay. So you've got, if you can get through the process and successfully expedite at an additional expense and get all of these really cool benchmarks out of the way, and now you feel like you can move forward, how many of those over the years were getting sent to this death squad for 84% of them to get undone? I mean, is it 1 out of 10? Is it 10 out of 10?
No. Very small numbers, but the ones that were being picked out were the ones that were successful, where a person then started a business or a person went to big tech and said, I've got a patent on this and I want to license it to you. I want to show you. I want to work with you. And during that process, time and again, I've heard stories of big tech saying, oh, we're so interested. Show us all your technical stuff. We really don't want to license it. Oh, they turn around and file a patent application on the same stuff. And then they come around to the PTAB and file documents, petition to have your patent invalidated. There's real heartache stories out there. People who have companies, 50 people employed, making jump ropes that are patented and having their patents taken away 8, 10, 12 years after they've issued.
Wow.
And this is changing. We've got a new director, an acting director right now, Coke Morgan Stewart, whose first day of the new administration was appointed to the patent office. Highly unusual. The patent office usually gets its director 10 months, 12 months after, a president gets installed. But no, this right off on day one, and immediately began reining in the PTAB death squad, changing the little procedural rules all the way along to make it very hard to go through this petition process, and creating something called unsettled expectations. And the idea is, if you've had your patent for 10 years and you have built your company, you have a settled expectation of that's a good patent. If it was a bad patent, maybe somebody would have challenged it the first year it was out, but coming in so late during the 20-year patent term is just devastating for small inventors.
Wow. That's actually scary because, you think you've nailed something down and you move forward. And the idea that somebody at some time had the authority to undo that is probably going to chase investors off if the word's out that that's a risk.
Very much so. This new administration is highly concerned with the idea that investors need a certain amount of certainty about what they're buying. These are property rights. You aren't going to lease or rent a property right if you think it's going to disappear. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. I mean, he promised to be business focused. And if he's day one tuned in, like he seems like he was, at least on this one, then he put Morgan in. By the way, Morgan could be a male or a female. Do we know?
She's doing a great job. She's come on in as the acting director, and we've got waiting in the wings, John Squires, who's been confirmed at the committee level in the Senate and is waiting for the floor vote to come in as the actual director. And we hear he has plans for making this patent system work for America and American inventors again.
How excited are you? You've been in this game for a little bit. That seems like a very positive change.
Absolutely thrilled right now. And I want to just announce that there's a new Association for American Innovation, a nonprofit lobbying, just launched this last month that I'm on the board of directors for. And what we're trying to do is tackle these series of anti-patent. There's been court decisions. There's been legislation. There's been the way the United States Patent and Trademark Office has been implementing things that are, frankly, anti-patent, adverse to the patent system. I was there as a examiner and then a quality assurance specialist for 20 years, starting about 2010 until just now. We believe that the anti-patent trend is just really, the pendulum really swang this other direction. We had a situation, all politics aside, but big tech in the form of Google moved into the Obama White House. Yeah. And about 2010, big tech, or maybe 2011, moved into the patent office. And from there, we saw all sorts of things that helped big tech, but did not help the rest of us.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting because I just had somebody on the show in a previous recording who was very concerned about Main Street America and small medium businesses. And, he was reminding me that more than 50% of business in the United States is the small business. And if they're going to attempt to innovate, then they can't have the giant corporations that have fleets of lawyers who could fight them have political advantage as well.
Absolutely. No, it's been a very rough time for inventors right now. We're hoping all this changes.
Yeah. Oh no. And it looks like there's good signs. So off the air, I was telling you that when I was a little kid, I used to do a poor man's patent because I'd have all these ideas and I'd mail a letter to myself with all my ideas. And then it would be time stamped because of the post office, and I'd never open it so I could prove if somebody took my idea that I had the idea first. And it was a very simplistic way of looking at things. And I'm one, I don't know if that would ever actually work, but two, I always had this sense that whoever had the idea first kind of wins. But it feels, after looking at this and talking with you some, that that's really not true.
Oh, it is hard. It seems to me when you hire the big law firms and they're able to make the right arguments and hire the right expert witnesses, sometimes that tips the balance and they win. It's very hard to get that level of representation. Minimally $20,000 to get through the patent system. And if your patent then is challenged at the PTAB, the death squad, it was costing upwards of $500,000 to defend your patent. And I've heard story after story of people who've mortgaged their house, borrowed their relatives' retirement plans, tried to fund something they believed in because they really thought that they were right and they would win. And these are heartbreaking stories of America. And they would make great guests on one of your podcasts, let me tell you.
Well, if you ever want to introduce them, I'm open to telling stories that are hard-earned stories, because, entrepreneurs have to learn from both sides of the equation. When the success worked, even through hardship, that's great. But sometimes the cautionary tale is equally important. Wow. So thank you for all of this. And I'm just curious, because this is really heady work that you do. And I would imagine, though you're clearly passionate about it, you've got to do something to reset, do something different, because you can't focus on this all day. What does Dr. Julie Burke do when she just wants to be Julie at home or reset? How do you get off of this train and onto something else?
Oh, what a great question. And I hope everybody's got some outside something going on. I like to sew. And I don't like computers and fancy doodahs. And in fact, my sewing is down the hall on a 1910 treadle sewing machine, no electricity. Cool. It goes straight forward. And I make things like baby quilts, because we've got the grandbabies coming, thank heavens. And this is thank you. This is a 1920s Featherlight sewing machine that is portable and carries. It does use electricity, but again, it just does a straight stitch. And
where do you find stuff like that? I mean,
people hold on to them and they refurbish them, and they are treasures beyond belief. I drive from here to a little shop in El Cajon. I'm in San Diego, but I drive out to El Cajon, and they have every nut and screw and bolt to go into these. And these were patented. These sewing machines in the 1850s, there was patent wars about the various sewing machines. And this is where the first idea, you need a patent portfolio, not one patent application, but you need a whole portfolio to protect the IP rights. There's a lot of moving parts in that little machine over there. And it was a center of patent wars in the 19th century.
So you're probably the only person who enjoys sewing, who is also deeply appreciating the nuance of the patents inside the machine you're using. How did you uncover that? Did you come to sewing because you saw the patents, or did you come to sewing because you liked sewing and you discovered the patents?
That is such an interesting thing. I've always sewed as a little girl. That's what grandmas teach kids, and that's what I did. But when I joined the patent office, I was in an art unit, a group of like 20 of us, and it was 1995, and we were that generation where our peers were having babies, and my office mate, Nancy, had one of these machines and sewed baby quilts exactly this pattern. And she says, let's all get together this weekend and we will from start to finish make a baby quilt for, the latest colleague that has having a baby. And
That is cool.
I think we made 8 or 10 of those and over the years, and then from there I branched out to other people and I just keep sewing away. And Nancy found me a place where I could buy my own portable feather-light machine just like this. So no, it kind of all came together at the patent office, and we sort of, if we weren't sewing, we were cooking.
So I don't know if you do any of this because I don't know how you have to market your business, but I think it would be very enjoyable if you either wrote a really long quality blog or maybe even a small book about the history of the patent wars on sewing and tied that passion together, because that is wonderfully and interestingly unique about you, that you've got the perspective from both sides of things. That's charming. Absolutely charming.
Thank you so much. I will.
Grandbabies. How many grandbabies in the family?
Pardon?
Well, you mentioned grandbabies. How many grandbabies in the family?
There's 2, a little boy and a little girl. Oh my
All right.
gosh,
How old?
Well, one's just 3 months old and the other's about 19 months old. And they're just a local and a handful. And that's a workout.
It is. Yes. I'm a parent of 3. We're not at the grandparent level yet, but when we graduate there, I'm sure I'll be equally as happy as I can tell you are. But I assume you've got ample blanket coverage for the babies.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. And now we're moving on to, I just made Halloween capes. Yes. You can make anything with fabric. It's just curtains. I'm good with curtains. Yes. We can do all sorts of stuff with this.
That's awesome. Yes. I like the idea of capes. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned something about wanting to ask me a question. What was that question from earlier?
Oh, see, here we swing again. This is the most low-tech thing on earth. In my mind, at the time, it was really high-tech, a sewing machine. What are we facing right now is this thing called artificial intelligence. And I know it's in the newspapers. It's upheaving, if that's a word, it's upheaving businesses left, right, and center. And there's real plans by the new administration to put an awful lot of AI assistance into the government workers' jobs. And I don't know if you have any thoughts upon AI, what it could mean, the opportunities or the risks in the cybersecurity realm, or if you have any thought, I would just be very interested.
Yeah. So we use a lot of AI here. Last I checked, there's about 8 different AI platforms that we're leveraging on a day-to-day basis in the company. In fact, this morning on my way here, I was having a full voice conversation with ChatGPT. And having it create documents for me, mine into some ideas and take some notes. And if you watch my most previous episode from a release standpoint was last week, and I actually interviewed ChatGPT on the show. Which was fascinating. You might enjoy watching it, but AI, I consider a great accelerator. The internet was a great accelerator. A lot of people didn't like the idea it was going to replace jobs. No, it also created a lot of jobs. Automation in manufacturing was going to take a lot of jobs away. It also created a lot of jobs. So I think there's always, from an economic standpoint, there's trade-offs. Innovation always changes the economy in some way, but we still need people and we still find a place for ourselves in whatever the new technology is. So I'm comfortable there. What I'm confused by, and I'm trying to wrap my head around, is actually your part of the world of intellectual property. I think the Scarlett Johansson's voice is an interesting one, with the most recent challenge that an AI technology leveraged what seemed like her voice to do something different and without her, and she's suing over that. And I don't recall the results or if there are any, but my guess is she'll probably at this time in history win. And then, you've got all of these abilities to create new characters and videos. We do a lot of AI video now where we actually are having Google's Veo algorithm create new video. Well, who owns that? Does Google own that? Do I own that? It was my idea to put the prompt in, but it was its idea to create a character that I struggle to control after the prompt. Where does my rights begin and end? How about their rights beginning and ending? A lot of it's really unclear. And then are you forfeiting your ideas as you upload something? Is there an end user license agreement with ChatGPT or something where they suddenly actually own a chunk of what you've done? Where does the risk begin and end? I don't know. All of that is such a new frontier that the individual autonomy of, it was my idea, it was my pen drawing, it was my computer unconnected to other things where I created something new, it was my camera that took the picture. All of the copyright challenges that are about to start, they worry me because we're going to stay on this edge of people needing to challenge so that we figure it out. I don't think anybody's actually got the answer. I think we're going to find a lot of hard answers.
Completely channel that. And at the patent office, the debate is who's the inventor of a new product where AI was used during the assistance of that. And what I've been hearing from some pretty savvy lawyers is as you're using this AI, you may want to very well document like you put it in an envelope and snail mailed it to yourself. Document the query. What did you ask GTP chat to do? Save the time point and all the query to later prove you in fact did invent this. This is your work. It was a worker for you. You made the commands. And that might be useful for protecting your intellectual property rights where AI is in the mix.
Yeah. And I think at some point as these start getting challenged, a lot of the LLMs out there, the language learning models, are going to be forced in court to reveal how the LLM algorithms are functioning. Because there's a risk that I'm going to take one of my childhood inventions that never took off, right? So I saw my mom trying to take an extra large pizza box and fold it up and put it into recycling. She was failing miserably repeatedly. So I was designing a special perforation design to go inside of them that would still hold the pizza strongly, but give you breakpoints where you could pop it and then put it away in a very small, succinct package. So I was doing package design innovation as a 5-year-old and mailing that to myself. But what if as an adult, I'm working that process out with ChatGPT, and somewhere across the country, another person is also working on a package design of similar concern. And then behind the scenes, the LLM is actually talking in a way where my ideas are influencing theirs, their ideas are influencing ours. Did we collaborate without knowing, and who owns what now?
Oh, it is a nightmare what you're talking about. And this is a real problem with law firms that are choosing to, or anybody with a variety of different clients. You want to keep your one client's matters confidential from the others.
Yeah, good luck.
And the guardrails are all leaky. From what I understand, you can set up the best firewall possible and other stuff crosses over. And so often these are competitors of each other now, learning details about matters that they probably shouldn't be privy to. It's the Wild West.
And it's interesting because we all lived the Wild West in the early days of the internet. And it feels like, and I don't think there's very many generations in the history of this world that could say they've lived 2 Wild Wests. But here we are, we're living it again. And it makes me also wonder, because trying to think past AI, once we figure this all out over the next 20 years, we're going to be around for the potential next innovation revolution. And I don't even know what it's going to be.
Yeah. I just hope my sewing machines work.
Oh, hey, keep them oiled.
Keep them oiled. And I think they'll still be working no matter what comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you have an analog activity. I think more people need to go analog.
I totally agree. The computer, I keep telling myself one day I'll retire and one day I'll just not use these darn computers.
Good
but
for you.
it's not realistic.
No, it probably isn't. And actually, please never fully retire. I've seen people retire and retire to nothingness, and then they shrivel up and go away because they have no purpose. You have incredible intellect and connection to a very needed thing in our world, even if you're partially retired because you're more focused on grandchildren. I don't think we can lose what you know about the patent world. So please stay in the game.
I'm planning to. Thank you so much.
All right. So before I let you go, somebody's watching this or listening to this and they have ideas. They might have been toying with the idea of getting them documented in a patent. And you suggested that and give me your title again. You're a registered patent
agent. Yes.
Agent was the term. I wanted to use attorney again, but it's the wrong A word. It's an agent.
Yes.
And so how does somebody start this journey? When do they call you? What's that look like? And of course, end that with, how do they find you?
Absolutely. So the USPTO has a webpage, Office of Enrollment and Discipline, where they have a list of all the registered patent attorneys and patented agents in America.
Okay.
I always like to work local. So you can also just check local sources for patent attorneys. LinkedIn is a great place to find people. And when we began this process, I loved your analogy about taking your invention, putting it in an envelope and mailing it to yourself. I would really urge any inventors out there to not do today's comparable activity, which is, I have this great invention. Here are all my details. I'm going to email it to somebody. Don't put this stuff out there. Keep it private. Keep it a secret. Dates are really important. Lab books with dates when things started happening are really nice. You've got a year to get your invention to the patent office, and that clock is tick, 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 ticking. For anybody out in academia, the worst thing to do is to publish your paper, because you love publishing papers, but don't put your invention in a paper and publish it in an academic press. Thank heavens, most universities these days have a really strong intellectual property office, a tech transfer office, who will immediately be on it and making sure you've signed all the right forms and are following the right process to get your application put together to be ready to be submitted to the patent office.
Okay. All right. So that sounds like a pretty good startup rubric. Somebody's listening and going, yeah, but I think I want Dr. Julie. How does the world find you if we've got an idea and we need to start this process? We now trust you. So how do we work with you?
Very good. I haven't filed a patent application since 2015. I get brought in on high-end complex matters where everything's gotten all messed up. LinkedIn is a great place to find me, and I certainly hope you look up. I'm working on patent office reform and practices and putting stuff out there. I'm still whistleblowing on that agency and trying to, promote things to help better protect America's innovative environment here. And also I'm on Association for American Innovation, and that's a new group who's trying to get word out of what sort of changes need to take place in Congress or at the patent office or reforms in the court system, things that could really help turn things around and move us towards a more pro-innovation economy.
I was going to try to land the plane for a second, but I'm genuinely curious with your new organization, who is the ideal member, constituent, partner? I'm not quite sure what terminology you'd want to put around it, but who are you looking for to become aware of it and also get involved?
So we're just boots off the ground. We just got started. I mean, this is like a really new thing here. And what we're trying to do is gather together thought leaders who are deep into this system, who've been having challenges and struggling and thinking, it could be run better, differently. Something new could happen. We want to be a voice of persuasion out there. But as any nonprofit, we are always going to be looking for donations if folks want to help us do our thing here to try to move things forward. And what we'll be doing is putting out position papers, and it's really effective if actual inventors are sending their Congress people position papers, like their opinions on how can we better fix the patent system to help. And so those sorts of grassroots lobbying efforts are really, really important to us.
All right. So the more inventors who become aware of your new organization, the better off you guys will be and the effort will be.
And we are also investors. folks that are all the way through implementers, manufacturers, people who are working with IP on a daily basis. And we want to stretch it beyond just patents. We're interested in trademarks and copyrights and international trade agreements. And wherever IP crops up, we want to make sure if we've thought it all over and can see a better way, we'd like to be able to be the ones out there with the voice saying, let's try this. This is what should happen. Or, oh my gosh, no, this is a bad idea because. We feel like this is an administration of change, and we'd really like that change heading down that path.
All right. You can give me the organization name one more time.
Association for American Innovation.
So the Association for American Innovation is looking for inventors and investors right now. And I'm saying this to you, audience, Bootstrapped Unicorns. Some of you are, Main Street and you're small business minded. Maybe you're not inventing anything. You've got your own systems, processes, and your own product or service. And this is maybe not aligning with you. But some of you are in high technical fields, you're in scientific fields, you're manufacturers. I've got a lot of my manufacturing friends who listen to this. You guys need to get involved and start doing these position papers and get them off to your local congressman, get them to the right audience so that we can make sure we're protecting all of our businesses with the right protections for our intellectual property. Whether you know it or not, this was a sleeper on your world that was absolutely super important. You probably weren't thinking about it. Think about it today, get involved, go on LinkedIn right now and find Dr. Julie Burke and ask questions. She'll give you answers. I'm pleasantly surprised, Julie, because I didn't know that we would end up here. But inventors to me are some of the coolest people on the planet and investors are all my friends. And so doing something for them feels really, really good. So this is your homework tonight, guys, is to go learn more about this and actually get involved, because this doesn't just help you and in your business. It helps all of us by protecting intellectual property rights. Awesome. Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was fun.
This was fantastic. Really appreciate it.
All right. So unicorns, you have your homework. The other homework always is to follow and subscribe and do all of that other stuff, right? So you can go find my show. If you're not following it, you got to fix that problem. Make sure you're following it. We release every week. Go find me and all my socials as well. We're releasing at least a handful of times every week with shorts and chapters and all of the stuff so that you're staying continually inspired and educated on all topics entrepreneurship. Now stop listening to the show and get back to work.